The steel chair slammed against the canvas with such force that everyone in the arena felt it in their bones. Cody Rhodes stood in that ring on October 31, 2025 with fire in his eyes, and Drew McIntyre across from him looked like a man possessed by something darker than any Halloween nightmare. This wasn't just another contract signing on Friday Night SmackDown. This was two warriors about to put their signatures on what could be the most brutal chapter of their careers. And if you want to see how this explosive confrontation ends, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because you won't want to miss what happens next. The tension started building the moment both men walked down that ramp. Cody Rhodes came out first with the crowd roaring his name like thunder rolling through the building. He wore that determined look that told everyone watching that he wasn't there to play games or cut promos for entertainment value. The American Nightmare had business to handle and everyone could see it written all over his face. His music hit and thousands of voices joined together in a chorus that shook the foundations of the arena. Rhodes walked with purpose, each step deliberate and measured, like a man who knew exactly what he was walking into and welcomed it with open arms. Then Drew McIntyre's music hit and the entire atmosphere shifted into something heavier and more ominous. The Scottish Warrior emerged with that intense stare that has broken stronger men than most. McIntyre wasn't smiling, wasn't playing to the crowd, wasn't doing any of the theatrics that sometimes come with these contract signings. He marched to that ring like a soldier heading into battle, focused entirely on the target waiting for him inside those ropes. The size difference between these two became apparent as McIntyre stepped through the ropes, towering and powerful, every inch of him radiating danger. Nick Aldis stood in the center of the ring as the SmackDown general manager, trying to maintain some semblance of order and control over what everyone knew was about to explode into chaos. The contract sat on that table between Rhodes and McIntyre like a ticking time bomb waiting for the right moment to detonate. Aldis started speaking, laying out the terms and stipulations of their upcoming match, but you could tell from the way both competitors were staring at each other that neither man was really listening to the formalities. They were sizing each other up, calculating, preparing mentally for the war that was about to be made official. Rhodes picked up the microphone first and the crowd went silent, wanting to hear every word. He talked about respect and about how this match meant everything to him. The American Nightmare spoke about the journey he had been on, the battles he had fought, and the demons he had conquered to get to this moment. His words carried weight because everyone watching knew the history, knew the blood and sweat and tears that had led to this contract signing. Rhodes didn't waste time with empty threats or hollow promises. He simply stated facts, laid out his intentions, and made it clear that when he signs that contract he's signing up for whatever hell Drew McIntyre wants to bring. McIntyre grabbed the microphone next and his voice cut through the arena like a blade. The Scottish Warrior didn't mince words or dance around the point. He told Rhodes directly that respect doesn't win matches and honor doesn't protect you from getting destroyed. McIntyre talked about violence, about pain, about making Rhodes regret ever agreeing to step into the ring with him. The intensity in his voice escalated with every sentence, building towards something that felt inevitable and unstoppable. Drew McIntyre wasn't there to make friends or win popularity contests. He was there to sign a contract that would give him legal permission to inflict damage. The crowd started chanting back and forth, split between supporting Rhodes and acknowledging McIntyre's dominance. That energy in the building fed into what was happening inside the ring. Both men put their microphones down and reached for the contract simultaneously. For one brief second it looked like maybe they would actually sign without incident, that maybe cooler heads would prevail and this would end peacefully. Anyone who believed that doesn't understand these two warriors or the bad blood that's been brewing between them for months. Rhodes signed first, his signature bold and confident across the dotted line. He slid the contract across the table toward McIntyre with his eyes never leaving the Scottish Warrior's face. McIntyre picked up the pen and held it for a moment, studying Rhodes, reading him, looking for any sign of weakness or hesitation. Finding none, McIntyre signed his name with equal conviction, making the match official and binding. The second that pen left the paper, everything changed. The table went flying first. Nobody even saw who flipped it, but suddenly contracts and pens and papers went scattering across the ring. Rhodes and McIntyre collided in the center with fists flying and neither man backing down an inch. Security rushed the ring immediately, but these two were beyond caring about rules or consequences. They wanted to hurt each other right then and there, contract signing be damned. Rhodes landed a hard right hand that snapped McIntyre's head back. McIntyre responded with a brutal forearm that sent Rhodes stumbling into the ropes. Security guards tried to separate them, but they might as well have been trying to stop a hurricane with their bare hands. Rhodes fought through the security team like they weren't even there, desperate to get his hands back on McIntyre. The Scottish Warrior did the same, tossing security personnel aside like they weighed nothing. Nick Aldis was shouting orders that nobody was following. Referees came running from the back to help restore order, but order was the last thing anyone in that building was going to see tonight. McIntyre broke free first and grabbed the steel chair from ringside. The crowd gasped because everyone knew what was coming next. Rhodes saw it too, and instead of backing away he charged straight at McIntyre, fearless and relentless. The chair came up, but Rhodes ducked under it and delivered a kick to McIntyre's midsection that made the big man double over. Rhodes grabbed the chair away and for a split second held all the power in that moment. The crowd was on their feet screaming, half wanting him to use it and half knowing the chaos that would follow. Rhodes raised the chair high above his head, his muscles tensed and ready to bring it down on McIntyre with everything he had. Time seemed to freeze in that instant. But before he could swing, security finally got between them in enough numbers to create a barrier. They pulled Rhodes back toward one corner while another group pushed McIntyre toward the opposite side. Both men were still trying to fight through, still throwing punches at air, still consumed by the rage and adrenaline coursing through their veins. The crowd was absolutely electric, chanting and screaming and feeding off the raw emotion pouring out of the ring. This wasn't choreographed or rehearsed beyond the basic framework. This was real emotion, real hatred, real competition between two men who genuinely wanted to prove they were better than the other. The authenticity of it all made everyone watching feel like they were witnessing something special, something that doesn't happen every week on television. McIntyre finally broke free again, and this time he went right for Rhodes with no hesitation. He bulldozed through security like they were cardboard cutouts and caught Rhodes with a clothesline that nearly took his head off. Rhodes went down hard but popped right back up, refusing to stay down, refusing to show weakness. They crashed into each other again and went tumbling through the ropes to the outside of the ring. The fight continued on the floor with both men trading punches and neither willing to give an inch. Rhodes slammed McIntyre into the barricade with enough force to move it back several inches. Fans in the front row scattered as the barrier buckled under the impact. McIntyre grabbed Rhodes by the head and drove him face first into the ring post. The sound of flesh meeting steel echoed through the arena and the crowd winced collectively. Blood started trickling down Rhodes' forehead, a crimson reminder of how real this confrontation had become. But instead of slowing him down, the blood seemed to ignite something even fiercer inside the American Nightmare. More officials came running from backstage, including road agents and producers who rarely get involved in these situations. They formed a human wall between Rhodes and McIntyre, finally creating enough separation to keep them apart. Both men were breathing hard, drenched in sweat, clothes disheveled, and neither one satisfied with how things had ended. They kept shouting at each other over the heads of the people holding them back, promising violence and destruction when they finally meet in an official match. Nick Aldis got back on the microphone and tried to bring some professionalism back to the situation. He announced that the match was officially signed and that these two would face each other with no way out and no escape. The stipulations were set, the date was confirmed, and now all that remained was for these warriors to finish what they started. Aldis made it clear that there would be consequences if either man attacked the other before their scheduled match, but everyone watching knew that threat carried little weight with men this determined. Rhodes was finally escorted up the ramp by a group of officials while McIntyre remained at ringside, pacing like a caged animal. The Scottish warrior kept his eyes locked on Rhodes the entire time, tracking every step, burning the image into his memory. Rhodes stopped at the top of the ramp and turned back one final time. He pointed at McIntyre and mouthed something that the cameras couldn't quite pick up, but the message was clear. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. The crowd remained standing and cheering long after both men had disappeared to the back. The commentary team tried to put into words what everyone had just witnessed, but sometimes moments like these transcend description. This was two of the best performers in the world operating at the highest level, creating magic through intensity and authenticity. The contract was signed in blood and sweat, if not literally then certainly spiritually. Backstage cameras caught both men in separate areas, Rhodes getting medical attention for the cut on his forehead while McIntyre sat alone in a locker room, still breathing heavy, still locked into that warrior mindset. Neither man looked satisfied. Neither man looked like they could wait for their match. The anticipation for what comes next was now off the charts, and every fan watching knew they had just witnessed something that would be talked about for a long time. The implications of this contract signing extend far beyond just one match. This is about legacy, about proving who truly deserves to be called the top guy on SmackDown. Rhodes has fought too hard and sacrificed too much to let anyone take his spot. McIntyre has been too dominant and too destructive to accept anything less than total victory. When these two finally clash in an official capacity with stakes on the line, the result will reshape the entire landscape of Friday Night SmackDown. What makes this confrontation so compelling is that both men have legitimate claims to being the best. Rhodes has the heart, the connection with the fans, and the resilience that makes him nearly impossible to keep down. McIntyre has the power, the intensity, and the ruthless aggression that makes him one of the most dangerous competitors in the entire company. There's no clear favorite here. There's no obvious outcome. This is genuinely up for grabs, and that uncertainty makes it must-see television. The way Rhodes carried himself throughout this segment showed growth and maturity in his character. He didn't come out there trying to be the coolest guy in the room or cutting clever promos designed for social media clips. He came to handle business, and his demeanor reflected that seriousness. McIntyre matched that energy and raised it, bringing an edge and menace that reminded everyone why he's been such a force since returning to the top of the card. Together they created something electric. As the show went off the air, the image burned into everyone's mind was Rhodes and McIntyre separated by security but still trying to get at each other. That visual perfectly captured what this rivalry has become. These aren't characters playing roles. These are competitors who genuinely want to test themselves against the absolute best, and they recognize that best in each other even while hating it. The respect exists somewhere underneath all the violence and aggression, but it's buried deep beneath the desire to win. The journey from here to their match will be filled with more confrontations, more near fights, and more moments that push both men to their limits before they even get in the ring together. But that's what creates great matches and great moments. The build-up matters just as much as the payoff, and this contract signing delivered a build-up that has everyone counting down the days until these two can finally settle their differences in the only way that matters. Make sure you subscribe to stay updated on everything that happens next between Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, because this story is far from over and you won't want to miss a single moment of what promises to be an incredible rivalry.